Hello everyone, my name is Professor Jeff Keelan. I'm head of the School of Biomedical Sciences here at UWA. I'd like to commence first by acknowledging that the University of Western Australia is situated on Noongar land, and I'd like to acknowledge that the Noongar people remain the spiritual and cultural custodians of their land and continue to practice their values, languages, beliefs and knowledge. Thank you for joining us today for our Studies Beyond Biomedical Science live panel. Today, we are joined by Biomedical Sciences alumni who graduated from our faculty. I'd like to thank them very much for giving up their time and participating in this event. Perhaps I'll ask them to introduce themselves. Alex?
Hi everyone, my name's Alexander. I graduated last year with a Bachelor of Biomedical Science in Pathology and Laboratory Medicine and Microbiology and Immunology.
Great, thanks. Clarice?
Hi everyone, I'm Clarice. I graduated last year with a Bachelor of Biomedical Science, majoring in pharmacology.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions to get the ball rolling. The first one maybe to you, Alex. How has your degree been beneficial for you? Are there things that you took away from your education that apply in your work today? And if so, what are they?
Certainly. So I'm currently studying the Doctor of Medicine at UWA, and it's a very intense course. So studying related sciences previously means that I'm not going to everything unaware, and I guess yeah, it removes some of that unknown, and also I'm working with academics that I've met before, so it certainly helps.
Yeah, it's a great training for the MD. Clarice, would you like to give your sort of input into the same question?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the most beneficial parts of the UWA biomedical science degree is that it's so flexible. So even though I did a pharmacology major, I did lots of other units, like broadening units while I was doing it. So I had a big interest in, music and I did a lot of engineering units. That's why I'm doing engineering now. So you get a big taste of everything. So if you're not too sure what you want to do, at least you can eventually find out by the end of your 3-year degree, and then you'll be able to carry on your studies after. Yeah. And another good thing about the pharmacology degree specifically.
Yeah, it is indeed a very flexible degree.
Yeah, another good thing about the pharmacology degree specifically was that you got to build really close relationships with your lecturers, and they're leading their field in research. So it's really nice to be able to approach people who are super knowledgeable, and yeah, that's a really good thing about it.
Yeah, that's great. And the pharmacology lecturers in particular get really great feedback, I know, from lots of student surveys. They're really excellent. And as a pharmacologist myself, I'm proud to be associated with the same department, although I don't do much teaching. Second question. So when you look back at this degree, what aspect of it was the most valuable or memorable, either?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. During my studies, I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to do a research project with one of my favorite academics. And in doing that, I got my first taste at research and realized that I was really interested in that. So I was able to produce a small paper which wasn't published, but it means that later on in the MD, when we have our scholarly activities, I'm probably going to pick up where I left off in regards to that. So that was really fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Well done. And good luck on the paper. I hope it gets published. What about you, Clarice? I know you did some research as well, didn't you, with the RAIN study?
Yeah, I did. So that was really cool, actually. So the good thing about the degree is that you get to, the uni offers some units where you're allowed to do internships on campus. And I was lucky to be offered an internship at the RAIN study, which was really fun. And I got a taste of research, which is good because at least I know research is not really for me. But it was a really good experience because you got to meet a lot of people and the kinds of work that they were doing. But a memorable, a memory for me, at least, my valuable memory for doing this major was being able to go on this public health study tour over the holidays. I think in 2019. It was offered to health students at UWA and other universities across Australia, and we got to meet Indonesia. We got to learn about public health systems different from our own. And yeah, it was great meeting a lot of academics as well as students across Australia who were interested about healthcare.
Fantastic. Okay, that's good. Okay, the third question is about UWA in particular. What do you think the value is of employing somebody with a UWA degree as opposed to maybe another university?
I feel like UWA has a strong research emphasis, and this particular area, you can't, go 5 minutes without research being an important aspect. You need to be across the cutting edge technology, and being able to interact with people who are leading in this field means that you come out of it more employable, with more connections. Like, I mean, you will no doubt hear on this day that we've got Barry Marshall working for us, and having access to those expertise is invaluable.
Great. Excellent. Clarice, did you want to?
I think at
Something?
least for UWA, you'll be definitely getting a well-rounded student because we're all forced to do subjects outside of our field, which is, I think, is a really good thing about the degree. And and we also offer a lot of volunteering and leadership opportunities on campus with some really professional clubs. And I think that UWA students have a lot of soft skills to offer in the workplace, which makes us more employable.
Excellent. Well, sort of talking about employability and the future of work, we all know that, people say that most of the jobs that are going to exist in the future don't even exist today. So we're in a very fast changing world. And I wonder what your thoughts are on the future of work in your particular area and how you think your degrees prepared you for this rapidly changing sort of scenario.
I feel like, particularly in healthcare, there's a big push these days on this concept of personalized medicine, in that your therapies are going to be specific to your patient and the condition that they have. You're not just going to be treating someone for skin cancer, you're going to be treating that patient's particular mutation or set of mutations. And so I found that in pathology, there is an emphasis on understanding genetics and genetic therapies, which is something that you don't necessarily get a lot of exposure to. And so going forward, having a solid grounding in that area is going to put you in very good stead, because it is the future, particularly with, I'm sure as Clarice can tell us about, like biologics and the like.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I know that there's a move towards more personalized pharmacotherapies, so there's a lot of research in that field. So I think anyone that does, research within biomedical science will definitely have a really bright future in the field of research.
Yeah, I'd echo that. And I'd also just add a sort of bit of personal insight. And I think learning how to handle big data is going to be really essential in many different careers. And this is going to be a focus of the biomedical science developments over the next few years to make sure we educate students in that area. Okay, so final question. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone entering a biomedical science degree, what would it be?
I'm going to cheat and I'm going to offer two pieces of advice.
Okay.
The first is, I feel like, even day one of year one, treat your studies like a full-time job. Be on campus, 9 to 5, 8 to 4, 5 days a week. Even if you don't have a huge number of contact hours, and you'll get a lot of work done. You will have your weekends free most of the time, and you will be able to, get through your undergrad with a lot more knowledge and a good score, which is, what you're going to need if you want to go on and do further study. And I feel the other tip is to talk to your lecturers and your academics. they're going to be your foot in the door in research and in other areas, and be wonderful advocates for you. So get to know them, they're wonderful people.
Great, excellent advice. How about you, Clarice? What do you think?
I definitely echo speaking to your lecturers. They're super knowledgeable and they're really approachable. And it's just really great to be able to even chat to them after, you've graduated, asking for, advice on your research project and whatnot. And I would highly recommend that. But as my own piece of advice would definitely be to also get involved in campus life. As Alex said, you should be on campus, treat it like a full-time job, but also make sure you get involved so you can make heaps of friends and you get to be involved in other things that you're interested in. You might not just be interested in biomedical science, you might be interested in consulting or other commerce sort of marketing sort of clubs. And it's a really great way to meet other people and network with other UWA students.
Awesome. Okay, thanks very much, guys, for those questions. So I'm going to open the Q&A session now. And the first question is from Rianne, and she says, would you recommend direct entry into medical school or as a postgraduate? Perhaps Alex, this is probably directed at you again.
Certainly. I feel that depends on the individual, and I will clarify that the medical sciences major is changing from next year onwards. I entered with the graduate entry. When I first came to university, I was convinced I was going to be a lawyer. So didn't even start in the biomedical sciences. I feel like the way to answer this is don't be afraid and think that direct entry is like the be all or end all. If you're not 100% sure on it, maybe go and do something else and then look at graduate entry down the track. But both are viable options depending on the individual.
Great. Okay, I realised that question actually was not the top of my list, so apologies for all the others above. Probably the most voted question is, what are the recommended majors in biomedical science that students should take in order to help them get into the Doctor of Medicine program? And I can probably answer that. It's the Integrated Science Medical Practice, the new major. Medical Sciences major is also available, but that's the recommended. The next study is about study tips, coping with workload. I'm sure you've got some ideas there.
Certainly, no matter how much you think you are prepared in undergrad, it will be a shock to the system when you start something like MD. But I think it's have healthy study habits. So I found that I had to adjust the way I was studying just because you can't spend as much time on each topic as you were able to in undergrad. A lot of people, I think, exalt the wonders of Anki, and I found it quite useful. But eventually you kind of settle in and find what works for you. But yeah, exercise, eat healthy, sleep well. That will make everything else easier.
Cool.
As for me, I think it's finding your study habits early. So I didn't do that. I think in my first year, I was trying everything, studying with friends, Anki, all these different things. I could never get into the habit until it was second year where I realized I think studying by myself at the library at uni worked for me. That's just me, but it might be different for you. But it's good to find that out early. Otherwise, you'll be deep, neck deep into third year and you don't know how to study.
Okay, good advice. So there's a question here from Taz. He says, what is the process of figuring out what exactly you wanted to do after graduating, and how did you know?
Well, for me, it's because I did the broadening units. So I should have done a double major in engineering, but I had done a lot of the engineering broadening units and I really enjoyed them. And that's when I realized, oh, maybe I'll go into mechanical engineering and work within the pharmaceutical industry. That way I could use my undergrad as well. But I think it's if you're really unsure, definitely see what you're interested in, choose units that you might enjoy, and then you might actually just change your major.
Right. Okay. Next question is from Jackson. Says, what broadening units would you recommend when majoring in pharmacology?
it's tough.
I think the thing about broadening units
Yeah.
is you should just, you know, go where your interests lie and do
Yeah.
you know, different things. And you know, the aim is to broaden your horizons and not be too focused.
Yeah. So I did a few
think
math units, and they were really fun. And you got to meet a lot of other physics and engineering students, see what they were up to, which is really good. And I also did music because I did a lot of that in high school. So that was really fun to have a little outlet as well. So it's honestly what you're interested in. We offer a lot. And I also did a Japanese unit just for fun with my friends. And that was probably my favorite unit at UWA because I got to use it when I went overseas. So stuff like that.
Right. Okay, excellent. Mia says, at what point were your studies were you qualified to work in your area of microbiology and immunology? I think maybe that's directed at you, Alex.
So the micro and immunology major is accredited with the Australian Society of Microbiology. So upon graduation, you are eligible for membership, though there are different tiers, and generally you have to do some further study to work in that sort of area. A lot of places are probably going to be looking at a minimum of honours and beyond. But yeah, I mean, technically, once you graduate with your undergrad, you are qualified.
All right. Jack has asked, how is medicine at UWA changing moving forward? I'm not sure, Alex, if you think you can answer that.
So I guess the TLDR is that if you do the med-sci major, then you do that, you skip the first year of the med program and you go into MD2. I did graduate entry, so I'm in first year of med, which means I do basically the entire med-sci major in 1 year. The way they're changing that next year, to my understanding, is that the semesters will be longer and there'll be some clinical integration, which I think will probably help kind of correlate a lot of the theoretical stuff that we learn. But I think functionally it's going to work in much the same sort of way. If you do med-sci, you skip a year. If you don't, it's 4 years.
Yeah, so that's right. That's third year of the undergrad on the first year of the MD is going to be 2 18-week semesters with a changed, more clinical content. And that's part of the change to the new double major, the integrated science clinical practice. The next question on top of my list, I better wind up, is what careers are possible through this degree? Maybe I might jump in here and say there's an enormous range. I've got a slide that's got about 35 different careers, and that's probably not all of them. So, you know, it really is, because there are so many different majors you can study, so many different areas you can get in, from sports science to humanities, lots of different postgraduate courses that you can take with the BSc biomedical science. It really is very, very broad. Many of them are technical or lab-based, science-based things. The professionals include podiatry, dentistry, pharmacy, clinical pathology. There really is an enormous range. And of course you can study masters, honours masters and PhD as well. So it's a very broad question and a very difficult one to answer in a short number of words. Someone called Zarazel, if I pronounce your name right, says, any advice on how to do well in chemistry?
Study really hard and ask lots of questions. Seriously though, like, I didn't do chemistry in upper high school, so when I did it at uni, I found it tough. But yeah, it's just go to every lecture, prepare for your tutorials and your laboratories, and ask questions, and it will come to you.
Right.
Definitely prepare for your labs. I remember my first lab, I did not prepare, and you would break things, and your labs are about 3 hours, and then you spend an extra 2 hours just trying to fix whatever you destroyed in your lab. So definitely prepare every single lab. That is the key.
Excellent, thanks very much. Okay, I think we've got time for one short question, so it's a bit of a funny one. What do you reckon is the biggest distraction while studying biomedical science?
I feel like the biggest distraction is almost the content itself. There is so much to know, particularly in something like immunology. You learn what a T cell is, and then you learn about T helper cells, and then different subsets of T helper cells, and then their various cytokines. And it's just, yeah, Pandora's box almost. You keep learning and learning more, and it's kind of going, well, when do I need to stop? Like, this is all I need to know for now.
Okay, I think we are out of time. Thank you very much, both of you, again, for your contribution and for the great answers. And I look forward to meeting you outside of Zoom in the near future. And thanks everybody for Zooming in, and we hope these questions have been useful. Cheers.
See you later.
Goodbye.
See you.